In this video, I'm going to show you some of the basics about accessing and using the two main tools that are used in IS 285 and 287, which are Packet Tracer and NETLAB. So first off, what I'm going to do is go to the Cisco Academy and log in. Okay, and once you're logged into the Cisco Academy, you can just come up here to the search icon and type in, click in the search box and type in Packet Tracer. And the first thing you'll see here is the a link there to download Packet Tracer. So here are the different download options. I have a Windows desktop at 64 bits. I'm going to download that version. Notice there is also a Mac Linux version as well. Okay, and so I'm not going to install this because I already have it installed, but essentially here's the executable file that downloaded, so you would just click on that and install Packet Tracer on your computer just like you would any other software. Okay, so now I'm just going to open up Packet Tracer. You'll notice first off, here's this comes up. It's going to prompt you to log in. You have to have a Cisco NetAcad or Cisco Academy account in order to use Packet Tracer now. So I just have to log in with my same credentials. Okay, and once I've logged in, at that point, I'm free to do whatever I need to do, for this session. And actually, that login will apply for any session. Today, at least, I don't know how exactly they apply that, but I know that any time that I've logged in once, without restarting my computer or anything, I can continue to use Packet Tracer without having to re-log in. So anyway, you'll notice that by just opening up the software, all that I have here is a blank canvas. Now I can use the tools here to construct a network environment if I have something specific that I want to look at and test or practice or whatever. And that's great. It's very, Packet Tracer is very useful for stuff like this. But in these courses, primarily you're going to be using Packet Tracer activity files. And so I'm going to close Packet Tracer, and I'm going to go to a course in the Cisco Academy. And so let's see, we'll just take a look at this CCNA course here, just as an example, and they're all the same as far as what we're looking at right now. But essentially, I want to just show you real quick here what a Packet Tracer activity file looks like and how you actually work with it for this course. So I'm just going to go into the Cisco Academy course, and I'm just going to look for a Packet Tracer file, and I'm not looking for anything specific. Just looking for something as an example here, and here we go. So in any of the IS 287, 285 courses, anytime you're going to download a Packet Tracer file for your assignment or whatever, you'll be given a slide number, and so you go to that slide number. So in this example, if the assignment told you to go to slide 3.3.1.5, then you would come to this slide and you would download the packet tracer file. Notice you have two different files here. The first one is just a PDF with the instructions. You don't necessarily need that, but if it's helpful for you, you can download that. That's fine. But these instructions are also contained within the packet tracer activity file. Notice here that this is a .pka file, so that stands for packet tracer activity. So I'm going to download this activity file. Notice it downloaded rather quickly. I'm going to click on it to open it up. Also notice here that I'm not going to have to enter my credentials again. One thing I will mention here though, while this activity, here it is, it didn't pop up at first. Sometimes this window right here will pop up in the background, and you'll try to do something with the packet tracer file and it won't respond, and it's because it's waiting for you to respond to this. So if this doesn't pop up automatically, come down here and look and see if you see it somewhere, or minimize all your windows and find it. You don't have to do anything with this other than click cancel. Okay, now it's out of the way, it's gone, and so we can go to the packet tracer activity and start working on it. Notice that you have two different windows here. One shows you the topology, and this is where you access your devices. The second window is actually the activity instructions. So you can maximize this window or whatever, drag it over to another monitor, whatever is most helpful for you. Again, this is just a list of instructions for you to complete the activity. So the activity will give you step-by-step instructions. They'll tell you exactly what to do to complete the packet tracer activity. When you're done, you can click on this Check Results button and then click on the Assessment Items tab, and this will show you your progress. Notice I've done nothing within the lab, and so I have no credit for anything, but these are the items, the different configuration tasks that you're supposed to complete in this activity. And then notice over here it gives you kind of a rundown of each individual each individual component, and the red X indicates that I've not completed that part of the configuration. So when you complete a packet tracer activity file, one of the things you're going to have to do, possibly if the assignment instructions ask for it, is to get a screenshot of this window. And you'll want to make sure you include both this area over here as well as this area here if you are instructed to get a screenshot showing that you completed the packet tracer activity file. Okay, so in order to get out of this, you can just click Close down in the bottom right hand corner. Notice it takes us back to our lab or activity instructions. I'm going to shrink this back down, maybe. Let's just minimize it and get it out of the way. Here is, again, the lab topology. In this scenario, you have 3 switches with redundant connections, and then you have a PC that's connected to each switch. In order to configure the switches, you would click on the device, and then you would go to the command line. Everything that we do in this class on networking devices, so in other words switches or routers, you will be doing from the command line. Once you first click on the tab, this is what you'll see. You'll just hit enter on your keyboard, and you're at the switch prompt, and you're ready to start doing whatever configuration tasks that you need to complete. Okay, so once you're done with all the configuration tasks, again, you go back to this window here and check your results. And since you get that kind of feedback, really there's no reason not to ever get less than 100 on a packet tracer activity, because you can see what you've got right and what you've got wrong, and then you can go back and correct whatever's wrong. But once you're done, what you'll do is you'll come up here and you'll click on File and Save As, and you'll save this file, or you can just click File, Save. You don't have to click Save As, but you'll just save this file to your computer somewhere. Whatever you do, make sure you do not change the .pka extension. If you do so, it's going to mess the file up. You may lose your work and you won't get credit for anything. So be sure you leave that file extension as it is. And then up here you can just type in whatever name for the assignment and click on Save. And once you've done that, again, that saves the file to your computer, and then you can upload that file to Canvas. Okay, so I'm just going to cancel that because I don't need to save the file. I'm going to go ahead and close Packet Tracer. That's pretty much all the basics with Packet Tracer. You will possibly find more videos out in the course that might give you some more details, or your instructor might post announcements with some more details about Packet Tracer, but what I've provided for you here is enough for you to at least get started with whatever Packet Tracer based assignments that you may have. The other major tool that we use in the Cisco networking courses is NETLAB. I'm going to go ahead and log into NETLAB. My interface looks slightly different from yours, again, because I'm an instructor, but keep in mind that what NETLAB is it's essentially a software interface between you and real networking equipment. So unlike Packet Tracer is totally nothing but software. That's all it is. But NETLAB is a software interface in between you and real network equipment. So when you're working within NETLAB to configure routers and switches and even PCs, those are actual real devices that, physical devices that exist on the Herzing campus. And so basically this is giving you as close to a real physical lab experience as you could possibly have online. Okay, so what you'll do in NETLAB once you log in, your first step is always just to schedule a reservation. Now you can schedule this reservation at any time. Keep in mind, the earlier that you schedule it, the better the chance that you're going to get the time period that you prefer. Now most of the time there are pods, which is what we are working with in this class. We're working with pods that have a specific number of switches and routers and PCs and stuff, and the pod physically is always the same, but what we're using for any lab can change depending on the needs of the lab. But what you'll do is you'll always go down and you'll schedule a lab. Again, the wording looks a little different for me than it does for you, but for instance, if I wanted to schedule a lab for myself, I would click there. You would then need to go down and scroll down and find your course. Just depends on what course you're in at the time, and then you probably will not see all of these courses. I see all of these because I have instructor access, but you'll probably only see one or two courses. But say you're taking IS-285 this term, you would click on IS-285 routers and switches online. Notice here you have two different options, and the reason for that is because there are two different textbooks. What you're seeing here is the first one is the Introduction to Networks textbook, and the second one is the Routing and Switching Essentials textbook. Now these versions, this is version 6.0. Version 7.0 uses different textbooks, so if your course is using version 7.0, don't let that throw you off. Just remember that these are two different textbooks regardless of the name. So you would look for the name of the textbook that contains the material or the lab that you are looking to complete. So in this instance, if our lab was in the Introduction to Networks materials, we would click on this top class. And then what you would see is just a list of all the labs that are available to you. You would scroll down, find the specific lab that you're looking to complete. So for instance, if you were assigned Lab 6.3.2.7, exploring router physical characteristics, if this was the lab that you were assigned, you would just click on it. You would then look for a time period and a date. Notice the calendar up here. You can click on different dates, and you would schedule your lab session. I'm going to go ahead and schedule a session that's going to start immediately, just so I can show you what this is going to look like. Okay, and the length of my lab is 24 minutes. You can change the length of your lab. Obviously, you wouldn't want 24 minutes. You'd want to change that. Give yourself a couple of hours. And then depending on the maximum amount of time allowed, you can extend that 30 minutes at a time. But I'm just going to leave mine at 24 minutes because I don't need much time in here. I'm not actually going to complete the lab. But I would now click Submit in order to complete my reservation, and then click OK. When your reservation time comes up, when you're ready to go into your lab and the time that you scheduled is here, it's at hand, you would see that you have the ability to go into your lab. Now this would not show up until your actual lab time, your scheduled time started, but since I made mine immediate, it shows up immediately. So I'm going to click on Enter Lab to go into the lab. Okay, and so notice this lab is rather simple from a hardware standpoint. There's a single router and a single computer. And so that's all that I need to work with. Now notice you see all the devices up here that are actually a part of this pod that you're working on. Remember, these are the actual physical devices, as are, these are representations of those here. But we don't need all of these. Even though they're there, we only need router and PCA. Here's the router, and here's PCA. Okay, so in order to start configuring the router, I can just click on it and power it on. Okay, so it looks like it's already doing something. Okay, so it was already coming up. So that's fine. We just have to sit here and wait for it to load. Notice that keyboard input is disabled, and that'll be the case until the router finishes loading up. And while this is happening, I'm going to pause this video. Okay, so our router has finished loading up. It did actually prompt us there for a few seconds if we wanted to go into an auto config mode, and you never want to do that. You always want to just get to the command line, so you would either answer no or just wait for it to time out. And so now we're at our router prompt, and you can click in the box there and start configuring your router. So that's all there is to it as far as accessing the devices here in NETLAB. So at this point you would complete your router configuration according to the lab instructions, which if you click on the Content tab, here's where you'll find your lab instructions. Okay, and then you can go back to the topology to look at your topology. You can click back on the router to go back to the router and finish your configuration. Okay, and then once you're done, you would save your running configuration to your startup configuration. You would not enter a file name there. It'll just the automatic response here is to save it to the startup config, which is what we want. So we've saved our configuration there on the device. Okay, and once we've done the copy run start, again, so that we've saved the running configuration to the startup configuration, we then need to get a hold of our configuration file so that we can submit that in Canvas. And so how you would go about doing that is coming back up to the router, and if you had a lab that had multiple devices, you would do the same thing for every device. So if you had other routers or switches, you would do the same thing here. You just go down and you click on Save Configuration. Okay, and what you'll choose to do here is save to your files. You'll click Yes. Okay, and what this will do is show you all of your files. You should see your actual configuration file here in this list. Actually, I'm sorry, you won't see it here. You've got to go and click on your individual account folder. I have more folders here than you do. You may have a couple of these, but what you'll do is you'll click on your personal folder, because that's the only location that you can actually save to. And so here, you can create a folder if you want to. So, you might, create a folder for the assignment like I did here on one previously, or you can just save it right here by clicking Save Here. You would give your file a name. So I would suggest doing something like Unit 2 Assignment 3 or whatever it is. Click on Create. Okay, and so notice it's saving the configuration, and you'll notice what it did there was it actually did a show run, so that you're looking at the running configuration. So once that's done, you've completed your configuration, you've saved your file. Okay, at this point you're done, so you can end your reservation. Okay, and now what you'll come out and do is go to your files. Let's see, let's click on Home. Configuration file. So under Manage, you'll go down to Configuration Files, click on that. Here you'll see your personal folder, and notice right here is the file, the configuration file that I saved. So what you would do is then, you wouldn't delete it, you would click on it to open it up. Okay, and then what you can do is click in the box. Okay, so after hitting Control A to select everything, you would then right click and choose Copy. Then open up Notepad, right click and paste. Notice your entire configuration file is here, your running configuration. You can scroll through it to make sure it's correct. Then save your file to your computer, and then you'll upload this file according to the instructions in Canvas. Okay, so that's it. That's pretty much everything you need to know for the two primary tools for any of the Cisco networking courses.